if you cover the names, I don't think you would notice any massive difference compared to some of the other teams. So personally, I think my team will do pretty well. Like I said, I'm excited to see how Magic and Mito do, but either way, it's going to be pretty interesting.
All right, we're jumping into game number 1 here. B and Cat with the warm colors. They will have the French and the Delhi on the northern side of the map. And down south, it is Elyona and MarineLorD, the French team with the cold colors. They will have the or not the Abbasids, but the Ottomans and the French.
All right, here we go. So let's look at since in this game, sacred sites are pretty important, and they are a little bit closer to the Delhi team, especially. Well, actually, they're closer to the Delhi player, so that's perfect for them. We have two sacred sites that are very very close to one another, and we have one that's kind of further away. But in general, if you're able to get three sacred sites, you probably control all the food on the map as well. So um, it's kind of like if you get the three sacred sites, you're probably winning already, right? And you'll get everything else as well.
That's true. There is the military school, as you mentioned in the pregame from MarineLorD. One thing that's interesting to note is that the French players are on the opposing sides of the map, which makes it a little bit more difficult to keep track of each other's knights. So we could see a lot of raids going on once we get to Feudal Age.
Yeah, and for MarineLorD, it's also a pretty good spawn because he spawned closer to the French, right? So that's kind of the best case scenario for him. B got the best case scenario for the sacred sites. So overall, pretty decent. French did get back gold, by the way, which plays a massive deal, and so does Elyona. Not quite back, kind of like side gold, but both French players, I guess, lucky with the gold spawns. And regarding food sources, uh, I feel like MarineLorD and Elyona probably got better food spawns because they do have two deer packs and two berry patches, kind of like in between in the back of their bases, which is always nice to have.
Yeah, that's a lot of backup food over there. It's going to help a lot. One of the things I'm somewhat concerned about, especially for MarineLorD's sake, is that he's got that back area very open. Whereas on the other side, the forest spawns such that it's pretty easy to wall at least parts of your base for both bee and cat.
Yeah, it's kind of like a trade-off where MarineLorD will have more open backside, but he can actually wall off forward easier. Whereas B and Cat will have a harder time. Like they basically got to wall off a full map forward, right? They have to make a huge line. Where in the backside they can wall off a lot easier. So I guess it's a bit better for B and Cat early, but later on, I feel like MarineLorD and Elyona are gonna have a bit easier time.
Here comes the School of Cavalry. No surprise on
Oh,
the other
and
side. It's the Minaret and the School of Cavalry as well.
yeah, and the Spearman is coming, and this is
Oh,
very. I mean, playing against Ottoman, this is very. It's not risky. Like he will not be losing villagers, but if MarineLorD micros correctly, which I'm sure he will, he's just gonna cause a lot of like idle food income or idle landmark, and there we see like five villagers getting pulled every time to just do that and then go back. We'll probably make it so that he can't even make a knight when he ages up.
that's some sick micro by MarineLorD. He's just microing his heart out right now.
Yeah, and let's not forget that every villager he damages potentially getting one-shotted by the knight. So with the charge,
Yeah,
so
that's a
just
big
doing
thing.
any damage, yeah, just doing any damage right now is going to be pretty good. And second spearman, I think, is already on the way. And that landmark, you can see a little bit of idle time here, a little bit of idle time there, and Elyona is already feudal.
That's some good value there for that spear. As you mentioned, especially if you just hit every one of those villagers once, it means that it's much easier for the teammates' knights to kill them, especially before the blacksmith upgrades come in.
Yeah, and there's a second spearman. I mean, what's the goal now? Do you run away with all these? Do you stay there? I'm
Yeah,
not.
that's tricky, right? When you have one villager that's heavily damaged, you try to run away. In fact, nice body blocking over there. As I say, that caster curse comes in, villager dies. But when you have just one or two villagers heavily damaged, you just go back to the TC with them. But when you have a bunch of villagers heavily damaged,
Oh,
you can't go back like that.
I mean, this is pretty. Let's not forget the night is coming. By the way, I can see it moving across the map already. And Cat will have a knight too, and that's great, but there's 2 spearmen, scout, and a knight, and 3rd spearman is coming as well. And B is playing Delhi. And by the way, he is opting for Ghazi Raiders, so I guess they will both go cavalry, or maybe B will switch soon after. I'm not really sure what the plan is. Oh, and the charge on the knight as well. That is a pretty bad start.
Yeah, nice charge over here from Elyona. He's heading towards the north, and this is a French versus French matchup. In a 1v1, so many times we see that whoever falls on the back foot, whoever is going to have some idle time, starts missing out on knight's production, will get into a very tough spot. It's so difficult to recover.
Yeah, so far I'm liking this start for Elyona and MarineLorD quite a bit. I think that the deer thing, like the early pull on deer, is great if you can get away with it, because you're technically using the exposed food income early on, right? So it's going to be better for you later. Whereas Elyona is now on sheep, but later will be on, deer that are exposed and stuff like that. But then if it doesn't work out like now, then you just ran around so much and just have so much of the resources lost.
Yeah, one knight is dispatched to pursue this one. I don't see any more dots moving towards that area, although it's a little difficult to spot this on the minimap. Fun fact, we can actually enlarge the minimap, so for this game it might actually make some sense to do with all these small groups of cavalry running around.
And by the way, I am not sure if I don't think we missed anything else, but B and Cat are 4 workers behind. So that has to be idle time on the TC. I don't know what else it could be.
I think so.
Because
Especially
he lost 1 villager, right? He didn't lose anything else.
Probably idle time on the TC, because the knight numbers are pretty even. So what I'm thinking is that Cat didn't have the food income because he was idled, and he sacrificed some villager production to be able to produce knights.
Yeah, and we do see B harassing Elyona, killing 1 villager actually with the Ghazi Raiders. So pretty good harassment. MarineLorD is going to send a couple of spears to help, and already doing really quick walls. And it seems that the game's going to be pretty standard. I would say, but all players are probably going to stick to 1 TC and just mass as many units as possible. Oh, that's another villager, maybe?
Yeah, that's another will, and both of the Ghazi Raiders have been pulled off. He can go back home and heal them with a Scholar, so that's great value for B there.
Yeah, and Cat losing a knight right there at MarineLorD's base, and suddenly the worker count is only 1-ish, 1.5 maybe ahead. So kind of equalizing a little bit.
B's doing a great job with these Ghazi Raiders. He's slowly building them up as well. He's up to 11. He's got 4 Scholars, and he's moving out towards the Sacred Site soon. You feel like momentum might be swinging in the favor of 3D here a bit. And once that happens, they can start working their way on the Sacred Sites. Still, Cat is actually active here on MarineLorD's hunt. MarineLorD has a lot of spearmen to work with.
I mean, this is what I mentioned earlier. If they recognize this, like if Ottoman just go mass spearmen with Mekter, like how are you actually going to fight this? Like they have no archers at all. So, I understand it's like, oh, cavalry is really good, you can harass, but eventually you will have to fight. So, and I feel like they're gonna have a pretty bad time then.
Yeah, Cat manages to pick off a villager on the wood line of MarineLorD. As you said, once MarineLorD stabilizes here, once he's walled off at home, this army is just deadly. There is no response from Cat and B to full spears and knights. But they do have the mobility advantage right now. MarineLorD is struggling a little to chase down all of these cavalry units roaming his base.
Yeah, and MarineLorD is trying to wall off the whole map, because I think he's realizing they're just massing cavalry. And you can see the amount of spears he has. He has like almost nothing else. So I think he's trying to wall off the whole map to try and force fights instead of, chase them around with no walls, because it's going to be impossible to catch up to the units. And if you look at the unit count, Elyona only has 5 knights right now and is losing workers and is already transitioning to farms.
Oh, that's very bad. And that's the mobility advantage that you get from B and Cat. You have the mobility, and you force Elyona to just play under his TC because he needs to help out MarineLorD with the cleanups. He's getting pushed away from the gold. Ghazi Raiders get some good fights against the Knights as well. And having to transition to farms in a Night War like this is extremely detrimental.
Yeah, because I mean, Cat had a bad start, but he's been, kind of chilling since then. He's just been producing knights, as many as possible, doing the harassment, and there's definitely a lot of idle time being forced. And Cat also lost knights, by the way, and he's still ahead 2 knights. So it just kind of, oh no, the villagers come out at the wrong time, and there's just too many, too many knights and Ghazi raiders everywhere harassing right now.
Yeah, look at that. The villager count is now in the favor of B and Cat by 4, and they have yet to capture either of the sacred sites. Imagine what would happen if they could maintain this pressure and also have the sacred sites.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't actually capture sacred sites because there's no reason, right? I mean, they have full pressure, and I don't think MarineLorD and Elyona can move out. And even if they do, right, you just attempt to capture sacred site. If it doesn't work, you just go back.
Yeah, he's got 5 scholars, 6 scholars now as well, so he could definitely move out.
Oh, and B actually has pro scouts, by the way, as Delhi. So he rushed that, and he is taking the enemy deer to the left. I just saw a scout carrying some deer, so that is just another thing kind of added to the pain. But luckily for MarineLorD and Elyona, 2 of the deer packs are in the back, so those are going to be safe. But just more food kind of being brought to their side of the map.
Yeah, especially if you think about Cat. Like, you look at Elyona, he already had to start transitioning to farms. And for Cat, he could be supplied with a lot of food from B. So it's actually a very good use of the free text that he's getting with the deli.
Yeah, and so far I would say this is going pretty well for B and Cat, and it is. But like I said, they will be fighting at a point, and I think MarineLorD right now can probably beat both of their armies alone. So they kind of have to. You can see B is actually producing archers right now, and they have to get the archer count like way, way, way up in order to be able to contest this army.
Yeah, especially because he doesn't have Tower of Victory here. So these are just pristine vanilla archers. And MarineLorD himself has a lot of archers. This is a tough army to stop. And as you said, once the walls go up, MarineLorD and Elyona can force fights. There's a bit of an eco lead for B and Cat. But this army is hard to stop by 3D, and this is a good fight for MarineLorD.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, B does not have Tower of Victory, right? So MarineLorD's archers are actually just way better, and they have the attack speed. And once they go into the woodlines, we see some Ghazi raiders going down as well, and MarineLord's just now torching buildings down.
That's gonna hurt a lot. With the deli, you use the efficient production to just minimize the amount of production buildings that you need. And when you only have 1 production building of each, you can lose your entire production in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, and they're all like very forward, like they're not even in TC range, and both archer ranges are going to go down, and only 12 archers against 37 spears. I mean, that is just not going to work out.
Yeah, there's the stable going down. Mosque could follow. Lumberjacks had to be evacuated. 84 to 52 is the army count. B's got a lot of Ghazi raiders, but he cannot take this fight right now. He only has 11 archers. And you look at Cat, he's got 13 knights. Now the knight numbers are also looking better for Elyona.
Oh, is that villagers on the bottom left side from that army?
Could
if
be.
that's like 10 plus villagers, that is going to be a very, very bad time. Oh my god, that's 19 villagers. If they spot that, I feel like that's his whole food eco right now. I think by the way, he hasn't had pro scouts whole game, so I don't think he's actually gotten any deer to himself. I think he gave all of them to Cat. So Cat is, you can see there's no villagers of Cat on the map. They're just all in the base. But B is the one that's out on the map, and the game is kind of quickly turning on its head. Because they just don't have enough units to stop the Ottoman army.
Yeah. B also only has 4 scouts to carry the carcasses in. Looks like Cat will charge in. Gets a lot of freebie hits on these knights. Some beautiful surrounds out there. Casualties are mounting high, but as the spearmen arrive, this is no longer a fight that B and Cat can take. They got away with some kills on the knights, but again, their position is still something that probably most people wouldn't envy.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, this is not MarineLorD's full army, right? That is not 43 spearmen and 37 archers. So that is like half of his army or 1/3 of his army, and they just spotted the food, and I'm sure everything is going to move there immediately to try to prevent that. And they probably are seeing like, yeah, they're seeing few villagers, and now when they get closer, they're going to be like, oh my god. And those villagers will be very lucky if any one of them get out.
Yeah, at this point, it's not a matter of whether you survive with them, it's a matter of how many you could possibly save. Knights will get some good charges, beautiful surround as well, so many casualties, and as you said, this is not even the entire army of MarineLorD. He's just holding off this two-player push alone. Now we're going to have Elyona switching to the south as well. He's going to get a good charge on the archers, and this is looking really good for MarineLorD and Elyona. They outnumber their opponents 2-1 now.
Yeah, I mean, guys, this is, again, MarineLorD army, we can see it moving from the right. It hasn't even arrived yet. Like, this is... Even if B and Cat win this fight, it's like, okay, great, let's do round 2 now with the army coming to the right. That is again, this way bigger than what they are showing here. Yep, there we go. So we do see army supplies 30 to 106 right now. So that is going to be very rough to stop.
And all the archers are gone from B, so basically no tools available to deal with those spears. They're facing, what, 40 spearmen? What is that number? 34 right now is the count for the spears, and they have 7 archers to try and deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. And he still had 1 mech there, by the way, the whole time, so he didn't need to replace that either. So the whole time he's just been fully producing units. 58 archers at this point is also quite a lot. It's to the point where they can also focus fire knights slowly from the enemy, and yeah, I mean, this is just a rough one to recover from.
They have knocked out the production of B, now they are going for the one from Cat. Love to see when you're MarineLorD and Elyona that they're using this army. They're not just standing around trying to pick villagers. They dive in, they pick production buildings, and they keep applying pressure non-stop.
Yeah, and yeah, Mekter goes down actually to a TC out of all things. So he will not have the attack speed buff, but honestly, I don't think it matters. I think they just have way too many units right now.
Yeah, it's a flood of units. B and Cat up to 50, but now they're about to lose all the knights. The matter is gone, so these archers are no longer buffed, but still, there is just a distinct lack of units over here for B and Cat. A couple of villagers also getting massacred by the knights as the fight takes a turn. Looks like it's going to be enough for MarineLorD and Elyona to push this back, though. Just no reinforcements coming in anymore for B and Cat.
Yeah, and I think, you know, early on they had a good lead, but like I said, it's great, you're doing damage and everything's fine, but you do need to fight the army eventually, and the transition was taking place, right? He was making a lot of archers, but they kind of attacked just before Mass Archer from B came in, and there was just no units to defend, and you can see they're just kind of roaming through their base right now, burning and killing whatever they can.
Yeah, eco count is still there for B and Cat, but they basically have no army. Rams are now coming in for MarineLorD, and the annoying thing for B and Cat right now is that, as you said, it's one thing that they have to take this fight, but it's not even a possibility for them to create a diversion by raiding, because MarineLorD and Elyona are fully walled. The only point of focus on this map right now is where MarineLorD and Elyona's army is.
Yeah, it's kind of like the early walls are very good because it basically forced the situation. If the early walls didn't happen, then we would probably see MarineLorD and Elyona lose, because they would slowly be losing villagers left and right, and the situation would get worse and worse. But yeah, early walls kind of forced this fight a lot earlier than 3D's team probably wanted it to be. They're really trying, by the way, but there's no light at the end of this tunnel, I feel like. There's rams in the base. And again, I feel like just the sheer amounts of units that they have is like, they can probably beat them 1 versus 2 at this point.
Yeah, it just feels like it's not a matter of who, it's a matter of when. There is the Imperial Armory coming in here for MarineLorD. B taps out, so does Cat. And with that, MarineLorD and Elyona secure game number 1. As you said, it's a story of walls. It's the fact that for the first half of the game, B and Cat had the mobility advantage, but the walls just took that away entirely.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where if they played, I mean, I would imagine MarineLorD, we saw him walling off first, right? So he probably made the call to throw down walls on the other side as well, so they can prevent the raids and stuff. But I feel like maybe if they played a less experienced team, the raiding strategy would have worked, and they would have done enough damage for them to transition into archers and all that. But yeah, you can see the military count is just, and again, it's like the military we see there from MarineLorD is like the military that directly counters what they were doing. So it's not like archers against knights. It was like a lot of spearmen against pure Ghazi Raider Knight at that point. Um, so yeah, just like I said, a good start, an interesting strategy, but good timing, and kind of just ended the game right there.
All right, looks like the first game or first home map of choice will be from Bees and Cat's pool. They are going for their own home map instead of choosing one from their opponents. It will be Rocky Canyon, and they do pop out the Malians and the Rus, the two most powerful civilizations in the Elite Classic. They will be facing the Abbasids and the Chinese here.
Yeah, so interesting choice from actually both teams. So Rus and Malian is obviously very, very strong. There's a lot of ways you can play this. Like the Rus can be the Knight Civ, the Malian can be the Knight Civ. They could rush, they could, try to rush Castle, Rus can go 2TC. But I feel like against China and Abbasid, you probably don't want to go 2TC. Because if you go 2, Abbasid is going to go 3, and China will be 2TC Song as well. And 3TC Abbasid and 2TC Song China will completely walk over Malians, even if they get to Castle, with just sheer amount of units, right? So it's also interesting that MarineLorD and Elyona both decided to go for boom civs in one go. So earlier we saw kind of like an aggressive civ with Abbasid or aggressive civ with China being played. But now we just see both of them being like, yeah, let's just boom it up.
Could we see trade here? We do have the Abbasids, and this is a map where Recon tried to trade in the Elite Classic. Other side, technically, we have the Malians, but I could see a world where we see a Chinese Song Dynasty, as you said, with an Abbasid trade. Do you agree?
I think we're more likely to see Malian trade
Ooh.
against the two boomy civs. But the thing is, Malian trade is okay, but it's not gonna beat like Nest of Bees and Abbasid, Gulams and everything else that comes with it. Even if you have the trade and you're spamming units, the Malian units are not that strong to overwhelm your opponent with just sheer amount of like expensive units. So I think trade wing with Abbasid is possible, but I don't think they would risk it against Malians. Like the Malian scouts are nerfed, but attempting trade versus two basically cavalry civs is going to be a very risky business, I think.
Fair point. Alternative, of course, is to play into the multi-TC build. Maybe we are going to see some spearmen and archers coming out as part of the military wing play. Maybe camels could be a thing. Not just camel archers, but camel riders if the opponents go heavy on the cav. But given that we have seen a strong effort to wall in the first game from MarineLorD and Elyona, I would think they will try to do something similar here, given that they have two boomy civs here in this map.
Yeah, it's gonna depend a lot how the map spawns, like how close they are, if they have wood lines in between them. Um, but I do feel that no matter what happens, MarineLorD and Elyona are probably gonna be the ones defending, unless Malians goes for trade. I don't see a reason why they would ever even attempt to, try to go out on the map and contest anything, unless it's a trade kind of thing. And I think that as the game goes longer and longer, Castle and even Imperial, China and Abbasid are just going to be way, way more favored.
Well, we only have 30 seconds left to go. MarineLorD and Elyona, they have had a quick game in game number one. In general, throughout the entire day, we didn't really have any long games. Are you actually surprised about that? Because one thing I know is that ahead of this tournament, I did anticipate quite a few long games, so To me, it's a bit of a surprise that we do see most of the games being shorter than 25, 30 minutes.
I think length of games depends quite a bit on the map itself. Like I think if we had high view or maybe even the pit, the maps or the games would be quite a bit longer. But a lot of these games are very aggressive, and I think since the last team tournament we've had, the meta has been like very, very aggro. And I feel like the only time you can have long games if both teams are like, okay, let's go for 3 TCs each, and then kind of the game, goes longer. But we've seen a lot of aggression, I think.
Speaking of 3 TCs, MarineLorD and Elyona will have civs that love their TCs. It's the Abbasids, it's the Chinese to the south, and to the north, B and Cat do have the Rus and the Malians.
Yeah, and looking at the spawns, I am liking MarineLorD spawn a lot, actually. He's going to have a very, very easy wall to the north. He has that little mountain range that he can wall with as well. So that's going to be very defensive, very nice for him. In between, I would probably put a Barbican right there to kind of wall off that part and protect Elyona a little bit as well. So if they're going for boom, which I'm assuming they are, I think this is a really good spawn for that kind of game.
Obviously, with the Rus on board, bounty is always going to be a question. But you should have no trouble collecting bounty here. He went 3 scouts, should be expecting around 300, maybe 400. He's only sitting at 70 though.
Yeah, and one interesting thing is neither Elyona or MarineLorD made a second scout, so they are not too worried about the bounty. And I mean, I don't mind it, right? If you're going for booming or second TC, you don't necessarily want to delay that. You kind of want to get it as fast as possible, and whether the Rus gets 400 bounty or 250, it doesn't really make a huge difference.
It's only 160 so far. One of these scouts is actually heading towards the enemy base though. But a very peaceful Dark Age, as one would expect from this lineup of civilizations. Looking at the map though, one of the things I'm noticing is that forests are kind of spawning such that you don't really have a lot of backups on the flanks. Most of the stuff has spawned towards the middle. And that could make things interesting if this game starts to get long.
Yeah, I mean, it usually kind of is contested in 2v2s where you kind of have to expand towards the middle somewhat quickly. And another thing that we see is the big stones are also on the middle, which is interesting. There's no big stones in one-on-one, right? Or am I crazy? There's just the small stones on the exact middle spot, but I don't think there's big stones in one-on-one.
I actually do not know. We might have 1 or 2 spots. I would be surprised if the map spawns such that... Usually the way that maps spawn is that you scale the number of stuff that spawns. So if there is no large stone in 1v1, I don't know if... I don't think there would be any in 2v2s. It's more likely that we have, 1 large stone or something along those lines in the middle. But I'm not 100% certain either.
Yeah, we just got a confirmation that there are no big stones in one-on-one. So
okay.
if you look at the middle, so ignoring every player having 2 small stones, right? Every player has 2 small stones on their side of the map. There are 2, 4, 6, 8 small stones right on the middle and 2 big stones. That has to be the most stone on any map that I've seen. So there's going to be potential for a lot of keeps. And China is pretty good at keeps, I can tell you that. Their keeps are pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. That's a lot of stone to work with. It's actually interesting to know that Rocky Canyon, a map that's named after stone, does not have large stones in 1v1.
Yeah, I mean, they do have those small ones, but... yeah, so anyway. We see military wing coming out from Elyona. MarineLorD going with the Barbican at the spot. I would maybe have preferred if it was a bit more to the left to kind of cover Elyona a little bit as well. But I think MarineLorD probably has in mind kind of the plan that I mentioned, where he's going to wall off the top side, the side above the sacred side and kind of just chill with his 2 TC Songboom. Now the question is more so on B and Cat, what they want to do. What is their plan? And we see B says, you know what, I'm just gonna go 2 TC as well.
2 TC play coming up indeed. On the other side, Elyona went for the military wing, so he does have 2 spears and 2 archers out there. He could try to harass the gold, but actually there's one thing interesting to look at. It looks like Cat is expanding to the south with his second pit mine. That's gonna be on a large gold.
Okay, I'm not a big fan of that second TC from Elyona actually. I mean, is it trying to like make a kind of wall there? But they're both gonna go on the same food. I think maybe securing the bottom side food, that deer pack, under his base would be maybe a better priority because this is kind of secured already, right? Like there's a Barbican, probably not going to engage there. But yeah, kind of interesting. Maybe he will decide to go for multiple TCs, so maybe the third TC will be there. Not really sure, but yeah, kind of interesting that B and Cat are just saying like, yeah, let's go into the macro game and let's not try to be too aggressive straight away.
Yeah, against Chinese and Abysses, that's a scary game to play. MarineLorD will play into a couple of Chukunu. I'm also wondering the same thing, like what's the idea behind dropping this TC here for Elyona? But one of the things that he's getting with this is that he's going to be close to his teammate. So in case B and Cat play aggressively, it's going to be a little easier to coordinate and defend each other. But it's not like B and Cat are playing very aggressively, so you could have gotten away with a TC to the south as well.
Yeah, and another thing that's happening that I'm very surprised, MarineLorD is not going to TC at all. He's just going to stay on 1 right now, which I'm actually very surprised about that because they might have not seen B go for 2 TC, but I feel like they probably did scout that, and if they did, then they should know that it's completely safe for them to get an extra TC there without any issues.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what MarineLorD is up to. He's slowly adding some Chukanus, and whose POV are we on? Is that MarineLorD? That would explain the 1 TC play.
I think that's Cat, right?
Yeah, that's Cat. Indeed, he's going up to Castle Age with the Afreeca garrison. That's a quick Castle Age timing. It's gonna be sub 8 minutes, possibly. And that also raises a lot of questions about MarineLorD here, because, as you said, he's playing 1 TC, he started making a couple of Chukanus, but he's gonna get beaten to Castle Age, and it's not like their eco lead is tremendous.
Yeah, I'm very confused. And by the way, Cat skipped Malian scouts completely. Like he skipped any production. So, like he has, yeah, MarineLorD's making units, but what is he going to do when castle units from Cat come through?
And it's not like it's difficult for the Malians to counter this Chukunu, especially when you don't have a lot of them. A couple of javelin throwers from the Afreeca garrison should be enough for that. And Castle Age is already in. B is starting to mix in some knights as well. And here come the javelin throwers. MarineLorD is nowhere close to being able to do damage here.
Wait, is B trying to get to castle too?
B.
He has 1 stable only.
He hasn't been making units.
We see a lot of... Oh, he's going pro scouts. Okay, I see now. I completely missed that. We see deer on the right being taken. So 3D is actually playing... I mean, I wouldn't call it super greedy. I would say it's super greedy if they played against an aggressive civs, right? Like French, English or something. But considering them playing against 2 passive civs, one went pro scouts to TC, the other one rushed castle with 0 units. But so far, it's working out.
It does work well, and you see there is a primary focus here for MarineLorD. He tries to take down that pit mine, also makes it easier for Cat to know where to go with these javelin throwers, and MarineLorD will be forced to retreat. Pro Scouts, obviously working well for B. He's going to have a lot of food. He's on 2 TCs. They are down by 3 wheels, but that resource income that's there for B and Cat is just so good. You have the Roost Hunt, you have the Roost Lumberjacking, and you have all that passive gold income for the Malians.
Yeah, and I think B will rush castle too. Like, only 2 knights at 9 minutes and 30. Even with pro scouts and 2 TC, there's no way that he has no economy. So he has to be saving, and they're probably looking at this and they're like, well, I mean, that's a big army, but they're not really doing anything with it. So I think MarineLorD and Elyona are about to be in a very uncomfortable position in a moment when that high trade house completes.
Hydrate House on the way, indeed. Both of the players from 3D will actually beat the opponents into Castle Age. So there's going to be a pretty big margin over here to do damage, because it's one thing that MarineLorD can rush up a landmark quickly with the Chinese. Iona's going to have to wait a lot until Castle Age kicks in.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe they were like, okay, they're gonna make a bunch of units and attack us, so let's just play it safe. Maybe that was their thought process, and that's why MarineLorD didn't go for 2 TC. But I mean, that is definitely not what's happening. And now MarineLorD is going for horsemen, but there's going to be castle knights arriving soon, which are going to be pretty rough to deal with.
Yeah, here come the javelin throwers. Lumberjacks had to retreat. Villagers were also pulled away from the berries. Here come the horsemen from MarineLorD. Castle Age upgrades slowly coming in for Cat, but numbers aren't really in their favor, and this is possibly a good cleanup over here by the horsemen.
A little bit of a overextension. Maybe you should snipe that camel. It is very expensive and very annoying to have to remake, but you know, they are pushing them back. The question is, are MarineLorD and Elyona now going to commit and maybe make rams and kind of destroy the pit mines? Or are they going to push out and age up themselves?
Yeah, it looks like this counterattack is working well for them. Militias have been popped by B. They are on the way to here. Still no Castle Age from Elyona and MarineLorD. But slowly but surely, these javelin throwers are picking things apart. It looks like MarineLorD and Elyona also want to regroup here. It's going to be helpful given the fact that there are 14 militias also coming out to help.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, they're just still making units and pulling back a little bit, maybe looking for that age up finally. And economically, MarineLorD and Elyona are still ahead, right? Because they do have 2 TC plus Song Dynasty. But Malian does have passive gold income, and I'm assuming that 3D team will be the first one to start collecting relics as well. Oh, those javelin throwers! What just happened there?
Yeah,
he just ran in.
He's going into the middle out there, but the horsemen just have a field day, and this is a beautiful fight for MarineLorD and Elyona. Clean up most of the javelin throwers with the horsemen, also opens up the path for the Chu canoes and the spears to push, and now MarineLorD and Elyona have a numbers lead in the army department.
Yeah, the javelin throwers were so deep in that I was like, how does B suddenly have so many archers? And then I realized he is on the wrong side of the fence and ended up losing a lot of javelin throwers there. And the army supply is double, and even though they are aged up in castle, slowly but surely Elyona, is aging up to their culture wing, and MarineLorD, like you said earlier, he can age up a lot quicker than the other civs because he is Chinese, so once they do age up, the military difference will probably remain the same, except the upgrades will catch up.
Yeah, farm transition on the way for MarineLorD. He's going for the granaries. Wars are also coming up, so once again we see a similar tendency to what we have seen in the previous game. MarineLorD and Elyona are on the defense at the beginning of the game, then wars come up, and that's where things started going their way in the first game. Feels like it could repeat here in game number 2, as MarineLorD is now also on the way to castle.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised that he Cat decided to stay on javelin throwers for so long. And now we see him going to the archers, because at this point he could have had about like 40, 50 archers with maybe even poison arrows, which would be super, super strong. And there's not a lot of units here, and they're kind of still pushing through, which is, I feel like, a little bit scary right now.
Scary for who?
Well, scary for B and Cat, because they don't really have the exact info on how many units there are, right? And they're pushing in very, very deep.
I have to agree.
Into the base.
I feel the same. They are pushing deep, they are losing units slow and steady. Some of those units are pretty pricey, like the Knights. And it's not like they're doing crazy eco damage. You see, MarineLorD and Elyona are still pretty much at the same eco level as they are. Probably slightly weaker due to the passive resources. But the Castle Age upgrades have yet to kick in for Elyona and MarineLorD. And once they do, this army from Cat and B could be heavily out of position.
And we don't see a Mangonel, by the way, being constructed by the Abbasid, and I feel like it is a pretty good timing to push. Don't get me wrong. It was just like 10 javelin throwers randomly running through the map, and obviously those can get surrounded pretty quickly. Now I'm kind of curious what MarineLorD decides to go for. Like, is his plan to just stay on horsemen the whole game in order to counter these archer units, or is he going to be adding siege or maybe something else?
Spearman did take a good fight against those Knights here. Knights very heavily battered. They do have to fall back. Horsemen do pursue. Here come the Chukanu as well. Costlage upgrades slowly come in for Elyona and MarineLorD, and it looks like they will be able to secure this position. Some Gulam also being mixed in here by Elyona and, yeah, just Elyona himself. And it looks like MarineLorD and Elyona feel confident about this one. They would just dive in. You see Chukanu closing the distance, and they are cleaning up a lot of forces over here, but they're slowly losing numbers. Are they going a little overzealous here?
Yeah, I feel like they're trying to push them out all the way. Maybe felt like, oh, it's it's going pretty good, but I do think that economy is a lot better on 3D side because, well, Mali and they kind of don't have economy. They just put everything on gold and just make stuff, right? So it's kind of never ending. And then Rus, I think, is still has plenty of food with like berries, and I don't know if there's any remaining deer, but he also got some of the boar. So his economy is still going pretty strong. So their units are just non-stop production, whereas MarineLorD and Elyona will have to transition to farms a lot sooner.
Yeah, MarineLorD had to start that already, and now you see, we talked about the forest spawns. Most of them are on the front. Elyona is going to get forced away from those. This push is looking better and better for B and Cat. They are willing to dive under the TC. Archers do have the Costlage upgrades, likely composite bows as well, but not much is left to stop those Knights with. You see most of the Spearmen are gone. First Nest of Bees just now makes an appearance for MarineLorD.
Yeah, we do see Nest of Bees. MarineLorD's making some crossbows. He's trying to take relics, but I feel like 3D Team took most of the relics out on the map. Because they've been... Cat has been going at the relics for a while longer than MarineLorD did, so I'm assuming he probably has at least 5 secured right now.
And you see Pro Scouts are paying off so well. He's still ferrying in carcasses, keeping that food eco consistent, and allowing both himself and his teammate to just keep producing these units. The villagers now getting caught in the crossfire as they flee from the Knights. Now MarineLorD and Elyona start bleeding eco. They are heavily outnumbered in the population, and this is looking very grim for them now.
Yeah, I mean, they're just getting overwhelmed because we can see on the right, MarineLorD had to go for a lot of farms, so his unit production completely stopped. And I'm assuming Elyona, the only food source he has is on the bottom side, and that there's units there harassing and stuff. So I feel like just a weird game from Elyona and MarineLorD. Just the style they decided to go with, I guess, is a bit questionable, I would say.
It's the Malians, so much passive resource income. And B went for a Naked Fast Castle, so did Cat, and then they were just able to punish with all those resources that came in, especially for the Malian player. Elyona and MarineLorD tap out, and we do have an even series. Was an interesting lineup of civilizations, but you really have the impression that what Cat and B did were just so much more suitable for this map than MarineLorD's strat.
Yeah, I mean, again, I said that earlier, right? They picked 2 boom civs. Okay, kind of interesting. And the moment B was going for second TC, I was like, oh, this is, just thinking like this is pretty good for MarineLorD and Elyona, because Elyona can then go 3 TC and MarineLorD can just skip all the units and get to castle with China, which is kind of like you are progressing into Castle Age or getting to Imperial closer. With a lot of economy, which is kind of where you want to be, but instead they were aggressive in feudal against decent or good feudal civs, but then they didn't really get anything out of it. Like, by the time they got to the gold pit, there was already javelin throwers out, and then they pulled back. They didn't get a lot of value, and it kind of just went downhill from there.
All right, so this is even Steven now, meaning that it's the turn of MarineLorD and Elyona to pick a home map. They can pick either theirs or one of the... Or I think there's only one home map remaining for B and Cat. Indeed, there's just Lipany. Looks like it is going to be Dry River, though, so a map that, at least from a distance, looks very similar to Rocky Canyon, but in reality, it plays a lot differently. You have those little ponds, there is shorefish, and there's a lot of aggression in Dark Age to try and stop that.
Yeah, and we do see China Mongol from B and Cat versus Mongol Delhi. I actually played a game earlier against MarineLorD and Elyona on this map, and they chose these two civs, so I kind of have a good feeling what they're gonna do. Um, in this one, I mean, it's one of those where early on, basically the way the matchups should work is early on, Delhi will be better than China because their fishing boats can shoot. So it's a lot harder to be aggressive when they're docks. But later on, China will obviously be better than Delhi, in Castle and onwards. So it's kind of the question whether MarineLorD and Elyona can build up the economic lead to kind of overwhelm and push back the Mongol and Chinese. And Mongol and Chinese are going to probably struggle quite a bit in Dark Age / early feudal, and later on they're going to have a good time.
Well, we don't have a timer right now, so there's a chance that the players are taking a bit of a break. We might have a long series on our hands over here, so I think this is a good time to think about the remaining civilizations for the last two games. Any civ that you have used once will be unusable for the rest of the series, so we could get some pretty educated guesses on what's remaining and what's available for the remaining maps for both of these themes.
So one thing that I'm noticing is both teams did not use English nor HRE. So what maps do we have? Lipany and Cauldron. I actually, I'm going to call it right now. I think on Cauldron, we will actually have a mirror. I think we'll have English HRE on both sides. Or we actually might have Ottoman on that map. But I think it might be English HRE mirror on Cauldron, which would leave Lipany with Ottoman
Abbasid?
Yeah, Ottoman Abbasid for B and Cat versus, what do MarineLorD and Elyona have? Rus plus something. Rus plus
I'm
Malian.
also slow here.
Rus plus Malian versus Ottoman and Abbasid. And I gotta say, I kind of like that a lot more for Elyona. Rus and Malian together, obviously we just saw it, right? It's pretty strong. And there's some potential that 3D can play Ottoman HRE on water. There's also potential that Rus can be played on the water, but it kind of depends how they want to approach it. But we'll see. There's some interesting matchups, but I think with the civs remaining, I would favor MarineLorD and Elyona because I do feel that they used more of the quote-unquote worst civs so far, and they still have a bit better civs left over.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in seeing whether they go for, as you said, HRE English on Cauldron, or maybe they want to go for the Rus. That would be an intriguing one to watch. That would leave either English or the HRE for something like Lipany. But some slightly better civilizations possibly still available for MarineLorD and Elyona. In this one, though, as you said, this is going to come down to some timings. This is going to come down to how much a Delhi can do in feudal. Might actually end up coming down to Chukanu numbers from the Chinese player, but we will see a lot of aggression on this map, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming both Mongols will do the standard, barracks in Dark Age, trying to harass into. Well, the question is, this is something that in one-on-one, I feel like Mongol is more known, but in 2v2, some players are going for mass Keshiks, and some players are going for mass archers with Mongols. And I'm still not sure which one is better, because if you play Delhi Mongol, you can actually just go Ghazi Raiders and Mongol can go archers, but you can also go Delhi archers and then Mongol goes Keshik. So it can kind of work both ways, and I guess it depends on what the players prefer, but I think it's a pretty even one. It just kind of depends which player prefers cavalry and which player prefers archers.
Yeah, so far, if you think about it, especially for MarineLorD and Elyona, we have seen Elyona being the cavalry player. Well, in the first game, definitely with the French. In game number 2, it was a little wacky because by the time they started making army, it was a little scrappy. But there
Hmm.
it was more like a mix of cavalry and archers from MarineLorD. On the other side, if I can recall correctly, like game number 1, it was a double cavalry play. Rocky Canyon, our cavalry player was B. And so far
Hmm.
in both of the games that they have played, B went for pro scouts as well.
Yeah, I mean, Pro Scouts is, can get pretty good value. Obviously, sometimes it might cost you the game or because you invested into that. But if you do it well, I feel like it's a pretty good way to not just get food for yourself, but also deny your opponent the resources and kind of force them into that long feudal where they have less food than you do. So I would not expect pro scouts on this map, especially with China Mongol. Man, there's a lot of fish, right? So they can kind of go for that instead.
That's actually true. That's very true. A lot of fish available here. I think there's definitely a window with the Chinese to play pro scouts, but it's not gonna be as likely as it was for B in the previous 2 games. It's more like an auxiliary thing here. Assuming that he's the one playing into cavalry, which I don't think it's gonna be the case. We just have a couple of seconds left to go. Dry River it is. And the first chance for B and Cat to take the lead here as we go into game number 3. Game number 4 and 5 will be played on Cauldron and Lipany if we get to game number 5, of course. But first, it is Dry River. Here we go in the 3rd game of the final set of the round of 16th. At least on Saturday, we have 4 more coming up tomorrow.
There's the con. So as we all know, whichever con dies first, game is over for that team, as the rules of Age of Empires say.
Let's look at those Mongol TC spawns, though, because as Vodka is pointing out, one of the things that MarineLorD won't really have good access to is going to be gold. His TC is awfully far away from gold. Not as bad of a scenario for Cat, actually, on the other side.
I mean, both are pretty far. Actually, MarineLorD has stone next to his TC, and Cat kind of has stone next to his gold. So I guess he will have to build it. I mean, both players will have to build a tower, but MarineLorD will have his stone under TC. So I guess it's, yeah. I think most of the game should be around specifically water. So not sure if Mongol bases will be able to get raided too much. It's kind of like one of those things. If it is getting raided, you probably lost the middle, which is already a rough spot for you.
Looks like once again we are turning into a slideshow for a brief moment. It's a bit of a slow-mo action with the con going on. So, I guess you're going for docks over here. That's a given for B and Elyona. MarineLorD and Cat will try to contest that. Where do you think the initial docks should go? Is this more of a middle thing, or is this an offset to side thing? What is the factor that governs the placement of your initial dock?
I mean, I think as it depends on the civ. I think that if you're China, you probably want to hide it in the corner somewhere, so that it takes longer for the opponent to arrive there. But if you're Delhi, like you don't care putting it straight to the middle because your fishing ships are shooting, so you don't really care. Or even if you're Delhi, you kind of want to build your dock where the opponent's dock is, so you can kind of maybe harass their fishing ships or just help your spearmen take down the dock.
All right, I think we should be good to go. Frames seem to be back now. Hopefully. There is only one way to find out. Vodka, our observer, has paused the game for us just to be sure that we're not watching a slideshow. But yeah, looks like everything is back on track.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not 100% sure, but looking at the mini map, I am not seeing dock for Chinese yet. So maybe they decide to completely skip it.
Yeah, there's a barracks opening coming from B, so he's going to make a couple of spears. There is a dock already for Elyona. This actually gives a nice little eco boost at the beginning for Elyona's team.
Yeah, I mean, what is the? Okay, I'm a bit confused. What is the plan? I mean, Mongol's gonna go spearman. China's gonna go Spearman, and then what? Because you can't kill the dock from Delhi unless they want to just tower rush it and just kind of leave it at that. But the Delhi will still get the value from fishing, right? So
I get.
I'm not really sure.
I guess the issue here is that you're trying to attack a Delhi dock, so it's not like you're attacking an HRE dock, for instance. You will take some damage with your spears, and you will have the numbers advantage if both of you are going spears, but that will be pretty much compensated for by the arrows being fired from the ships. So, feels a little awkward to me when I look at what Cat and B is doing. We'll have to see how this goes. They will have the numbers advantage at the beginning, however.
Yeah, I mean, they can definitely like prevent that fishing. And if you prevent the fishing, great, but you're also double investing into military. Whereas I feel like this dock probably got decent value already. So I guess we'll see how it pans out, because in MarineLord's case, I feel like the best thing they can do is if MarineLord recognizes this, he should immediately send villagers to gold and try to age up. They should actually not attempt to defend this at all, and they should just try to age up instead.
Yeah, like once they get to Feudal Age, and if the opponent goes heavy on the spears, you will beat them to Feudal Age, and once you get a couple of archers out, this is gonna be difficult to push. Tower now coming in, but you do see the fishing ships trying to contribute here, pushing away the villager. A lot of damage has been done to that tower, but it looks like the tower is going up, so the fishing ships will be pushed away from the dock at least for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, they will start siege of that dock slowly. And by the way, it's China who towers that, so that's kind of interesting. I guess, you know, faster build time. But I think MarineLord is going for the gold, so they will try to age up a lot quicker and kind of try to circumvent that pressure that they're having. And while this is, you know, they are doing good work, they will kill that dock. The question is, once MarineLord and Elyona age up and they go archers, they can just take the other pawns because they will have, you know, higher tech army.
Yeah, but because these fishing ships can also fire, you have to be a lot more cautious about attacking them. So the fishing ships will survive, so even if you secure some ground in Feudal Age, you will be able to rebuild that dock and use the pond again. Feudal Age on the way though for Elyona, and this comes at a very uncomfortable position for him. That landmark is definitely something that could be challenged by these spears, although there should be an angle from which the villagers can build it from the safety of the TC.
I mean, they're just going around, and I feel like this is a... If they maybe went to MarineLord's base, even though there's a tower in his gold, I feel like they can just go for it with this many spearmen. But... yeah, I mean, maybe they get this gold here, which... okay, it gets deleted as well, so... yeah, like I said, they got the dock, great, cool, but the question is, can they build up on this? And I'm not sure if there's attempts being made. If we can look at the north side, I think that is a dock going up for Cat right now in the northern fishing pond, but we'll definitely see archers from the blue team.
Yeah, and the alarming thing for B and Cat is that they are both still in Dark Age. Also means that they do not have the hardened tech for the spears, something that MarineLord does have. So from now on, this is a tech advantage even without the archers. Cat is the first one to age from his team. He's going up with the deer stones. He does have a lot of spears though, and it looks like we do have docks from both players on 3D as well. B's got one in the middle, and as you said, to the north we do have one for Cat as well. B still not on the way to Feudal Age up until now. At least he's going to have the Chinese build speed, so he might actually beat his teammate to Feudal here.
Yeah, we do see some micro happening. We do see MarineLord archers, so I'm assuming Elyona will be going Ghazi Raiders in this one, considering MarineLord is kind of committing to the more infantry-based style. And we do see a tower as well, so it's kind of like now they're getting their docks tower rushed on their side.
Yeah, let's not forget that if this tower gets burned down, that's gonna be some extra bonus. But speaking of bonus, this is a good bonus for these spearmen, picking off a villager here, harassing the gold miners and MarineLord. You mentioned this before. They have a lot of spearmen. They could have targeted this gold sooner than this. They will get at least one villager pick. But in return, there is a junk coming up though. I think the junk might be able to stop the tower.
Yeah, I mean, if that tower goes up, he's gonna... Yeah, he's gonna go for that tower. Maybe if he spreads the villagers a little bit. No, he's just gonna immediately move back, and they will defend that pond, and kind of puts MarineLorD and Elyona in a rough spot because they also have a dock in the north side, which, from what I'm seeing, Elyona also docked, so he might be contesting that north dock at the same time, and he's just gonna rebuild the dock on this one. Yep, right there. But he's making a fishing boat. He's not even contesting the other ones. Now, while having fishing here is great, if you have to build like an archer ship and like a springled ship and like an explosive ship, at that point you gotta wonder like how worth is it for you to make so many units there, because your opponent is making units on the land, right? And while you can defend this, that's great. MarineLorD and Elyona can just choose not to fight there and move somewhere else and get their value that way.
Yeah, of course, part of the equation here for Elyona is that securing those spawns, at least some of them, also secures some of the sacred sites. And him playing Delhi, that's going to be a factor to take a look at. In fact, they're working their way towards this sacred site to the north. They will burn down this tower, and this is the initial 3 fishing boats that you had for Elyona. They still live, and now with a new dock up, they once again go back to work.
Yeah, and this is what I mentioned, you know, like, they did get that tower, or, you know, tower down, and they got the dock down, and that's great. But now the fishing ships are back at work, and the map control right now is definitely in MarineLorD and Elyona's favor, especially with Ghazi Raiders in the field.
Yeah, Ghazi Raiders now on the way. Eco numbers slightly favor B and Cat, but you see, a lot of that is in the form of these fishing boats. They're slowly being picked apart by the archers, but you gotta be cautious going close to that pond. There is a demo lurking out there.
Yeah, so far, I think the ponds are actually in favor of the blue team, by the way, because MarineLorD has one fishing pond, then Elyona has one, and then Elyona is kind of sharing one with Cat, right? So they actually have more, and I'm pretty sure we should be seeing maybe like a tower or two on these sacred sites. And one thing I just noticed is the sacred sites are all going to be in control, or 2 are going to be in control of the blue team, except the one where B has his fishing.
Mobility advantage is on the side of Elyona right now. He does have those Ghazi Raiders lurking around, trying to poke some villagers down. Eco also now just a tiny bit in the favor of MarineLorD and Elyona, kind of because B and Cat are losing some ground in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, we see a springled ship here, and again, that's really expensive. You know, that's not like 100 resources thrown, and it's not even doing that much DPS, funnily enough, to these archers. So the fishing ship goes down, villager goes down, and they can just burn the dock. Oh, an explosive ship comes out, and I mean, yeah, that's probably going to be a kill. Although we do see army approaching as well.
Yeah, archers will trade in the middle, but the dock is about to get set on fire. That's a dock that goes down from Cat, goes down with his entire fishing eco in it. There is a ship coming out though. Love to see the timing of Elyona pulling back here. You know those timings. When you feel like there could be a demo popping out any moment, you will be extra cautious around that dock.
Yeah, and MarineLorD chooses to stay a little bit, maybe burn that dock. And if they manage to burn that dock, I mean, it's going to be 3 fishing ponds versus 1, which obviously is a pretty big economic advantage. Although we do see massive armies from each side, and it's kind of going to be cavalry versus no cavalry on the other side. And it kind of depends on Elyona how he uses the Ghazi Raiders to either fight or harass the other side.
Yeah, a lot comes down to picking off those spears that are coming out from Cat. Cat only has 8 spears though. If those go down, the Ghazi Raiders could just massacre everything. And when you look at Cat, he's heavy on the archers. He's got 1 Keshik, a couple of spears. B is going heavy on the Chukonu department, but no direct answer to those Ghazi Raiders other than the 8 spearmen that Cat has.
Yeah, I didn't even notice until you pointed out 8 spearmen is not enough. It does 20 Ghazi Raiders, which do so much damage to archers and all these units. I mean, their whole army is basically just archers. And we do see prelates coming out, so the sacred sites will be getting secured one by one.
Yep, indeed. Love to see that one on the south being kept. It's so far away from all this chaos and combat. You can just get that for free and then focus your attention to the north. Looks like this spawn will be contested now. No demo ship on the horizon by MarineLorD. Oh, you gotta be cautious in the pond in the middle. There was a demo out there. MarineLorD looks out for it, picks it off. And it looks like we will just have a trade of pawns.
Yeah, and I feel like this is better for MarineLorD and Elyona because by trading those pawns, this pawn is close to the sacred site. So it allows them to actually get that sacred site a lot easier than they could have if there was, ships next to it. So I feel like, I don't know, just having cavalry in 2v2 is so important. It allows you for, surrounds. It allows you for easy harassments. So I definitely favor them in the long run, although we do see some Keshiks being added to the field finally.
Yeah, those Keshiks will be valuable. Of course, Elyona does have Ghazi Raiders, so they do bonus damage against the Keshiks. I feel like the bigger concern for B and Cat is the lack of cavalry, or compared to at least Elyona. Elyona's got such critical mass that he could now dive under TC, pick off 20 villagers, and get away with minimal casualties.
Yeah, and MarineLorD doing the move, was that movement speed arrow? Just kind of approaching a little bit closer, and we do see kind of players just rotating with both their armies and just going for just sniping dogs, sniping fishing ships, sniping whatever they can. But the lead is still definitely economically in MarineLorD and Leona's favor, but the army as like a one big clump is definitely very strong for Cat and B.
There's a demo. That demo is lurking for a retreat. Here come the Ghazi Raiders, and now Cat and B has to stand and fight. They cannot retreat because there is the demo. Ghazi Raiders just shielding the archers, but Keshiks doing good work over there on the front line. Still 9 spearmen out there for Cat. Elyona and MarineLorD will retreat. They're starting to lose their advantage when it comes to numbers. In fact, now it's a pretty substantial advantage for Cat and B on the numbers game. But that's a lot of cavalry still to deal with, and now the Ghazi Raiders charge in.
Yeah, the Ghazi Raiders are gonna go down. There are some spearmen in the back, but this is what I was saying. You can see the Keshiks are just, even though they have less HP, they are, strong cavalry, and they are tanking a lot of these archer shots. So they might be making a difference in, a straight up fight because they can take just a little bit more archer fire from the enemy. And we do see actually Elyona aging up. So, having those 2 sacred sites and having fishing economy is paying off. The question is, what does he go for? Does he immediately go for knights, or does he add men-at-arms to kind of paint these units a little bit?
It's a tricky choice, right? You would love to see some lancers for raiding, but then again, especially if Cat continues to add spearmen, those knights won't do that much good compared to men-at-arms, but this is what I was waiting for. This is such a good use of those Ghazi Raiders. They realize that Cat and B don't really attack them, so they can dive in, pick some vills, and then just get back to the middle like nothing happened.
Yeah, and I mean, if he goes into the woodline, that is a lot of workers. And yeah, that's a lot of idle time now, so creating all kinds of problems. Now the question is, you're putting 3D Team in a position of all-in, so they get to choose. Are you going to go back and try to deal with this? Or are you going to just push through and try to end the game?
Oh, this cavalry is doing so much, and it looks like B and Cat are heading straight towards the base of Elyona. They saw that he's up to Castle Age. They started shifting that way. It looks like now they are thinking about jumping on MarineLorD, but this is getting dicey for 3D. They're losing way too much eco here. Ghazi Raiders completely unaddressed on the back line.
Yeah, I mean, they're going all in, right? They're basically saying, let's just try to defend with reinforcements, but, I mean, look at the idle villagers on the left. There's just so much idle economy everywhere that these units are most likely forfeit, but they will also kill so much eco or idle so much eco that they're definitely going to pay off.
And MarineLorD's archer count is sitting at 43. He's facing a lot of Chu canoes, but he does have the Khan's arrow, the attack arrow that is. He's got some towers as well to defend with, and here come the Lancers. This is the big game changer. No Keshiks, no Spearmen to be found, and even just a couple of these Lancers will be the difference maker between these two armies.
Yeah, this is gonna be a complete cleanup. Like, they have to kite, but there's so much stuff happening on the map with these docks, with the sacred sites, and you can see the cat just idling the archers right there, not moving them. They're getting raided at the same time, and yeah, the knights, I'm assuming, will be coming in big numbers. The relics are gonna start getting taken as well, so it might just snowball really quickly, and MarineLorD is probably just gonna stay on archers, maybe try age up soon to upgrade them, but it's looking pretty good for them right now, even though they're lower army count.
Here comes another push, but Lancer numbers rising steadily here for Elyona. He's lost a lot of Ghazi Raiders. Army count still in the favor of B and Cat, but this is a feudal age army against some costly units coming in here from Elyona. Eco numbers are still that even though, so I don't think this is that much of an all-in scenario right now for 3D.
Well, they didn't lose a lot of villagers. They lost maybe 10 total, and they do have Song Dynasty, right, pumping villagers, but they did have a lot of idle time, and Elyona has 7 knights right now. We do see MarineLorD aging up, so unless they die here, which I don't see how they would, right? They can just choose to not fight here, even though they are going for it because there's simply no Keshiks anymore and there's no spears. And there's a lot of Lancers right there.
That's a lot of Lancers indeed. Quite a few Ghazi Raiders still in there. Only 6 spears for Cat on the field. No more Keshiks. It's basically just a mass of Chukunu and archers at this point. MarineLorD is on the way to Castle Age as well, though. He's coming up with the Stab Redoubt, and he's pursuing this army as well. Chukunu is slow to retreat, and this is a beautiful cleanup for MarineLorD and Elyona.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that they have 30 supply lead, and now they are 20 army behind. After that, they were fighting, by the way, in the tower range, so MarineLorD's archers had 15% movement speed, which allowed them to catch up. And I mean, if you thought this was bad, it's about to get a whole lot worse when 48 archers turned into castle archers. And I'm assuming +1 weapons or +1 ranged armor, so his archers are about to get a lot stronger, and they can just pull back a little bit, like, you know, let's not commit, let me get my upgrades, and then let's just go in again.
Ooh, some farms coming up already for Elyona. Definitely an early timing for a Delhi player, but it is what it is. What's more important is that he needs to start getting closer and closer to those keeps because he wants to start working on the villager production through the village fortresses tech. And they do have 2 sacred sites, so securing those with keeps would be valuable too.
Yeah, so this is the strongest point, I would say, for Elyona and MarineLorD. So any second that passes from here on out, assuming nothing happens, is going to be worse and worse for him because China is about to have Nest of Bees. So they kind of want to push right now, and they want to do some damage, which is exactly what they're doing, right? They're doing a lot of economic damage here. Mongol, aka Cat, I don't think has any chances of getting to castle anytime soon. Like, he has 2 pastures, and that's it. So I don't think he has enough economy to even age up. And as long as they keep it that way, they will have really good chance of winning.
Yeah, he's got 51 villagers, and for a brief moment, Vodka has shown us the resource income per minute. Most of his eco was shut down. He had 15 villagers idle inside the TC, additional villas idle inside the towers. They will clean this up, but as you said, when you look at Cat's position, he's got basically no army. He's stuck. Oh, careful. There's Demo lurking. Beasty, hold my hand.
Oh, God. Oh, my God, he barely goes in time. That could have been -20 archers right there.
Yeah, that could have been devastating, but Demo just not in position there to do damage. So, yeah, you look at Cat, he is not really a factor right now. Still feudal age, no army, no strong eco. This is kind of turning into a 2v1 against B.
Yeah, and they've done a good job just focusing on Cat, right? Reducing his economy, killing his villagers. And now they can just turn against B with basically 2 armies against 1 and try to fight that. Like, the army count looks... I mean, it's obviously bad, right? But let's not forget that, like, 15 or 20 of that is Cat's army, that is feudal army, right? So it's actually worse than it is. And there's a lot of fishing still under, which I'm sure they're gonna take care of it now, and just gonna make the game even worse for them.
Yeah, technically, they could even capture the sacred site in the middle, as we do see Elyona yoinking the relic being pursued by a Khan. Now the Chukanu tried to fight the archers, but Lancers with support will just push them all the way back under the Barbican. There are two Nest of Bees somewhere from B, but they are definitely not on this screen, definitely not helping this army. They're just now arriving, but you gotta be cautious, the Lancers could just jump them.
Yeah, and there's just so many units, and Nest of Bees are doing so much damage, and this is kind of the pain train of China versus Delhi happening right now. He is trying to get on top of them. He does get on top of one, and I think one will at least go down. There's no archers to repair. And the army from 3D is just completely disappearing on the left side.
Most of the Nest of Bees are getting cleaned up by the Lancers. And there were some good hits, but with the staggered formation coming in from MarineLorD, most of his army is still intact. Army for B, and of course Cat as well, is just gone. Now the Lancers are raiding into 3D's bases. The archers just idle right next to the ranges, meaning that any single Chukunu that pops out just get instantly picked off. And the Lancers now move in on B as well. They know that Cat is not really a big factor right now, so they can just jump on B. They actually do find a lot of villagers here from Cat as well. Just a smorgasbord for slaughter.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of getting from bad to worse, right? Like, you can see the villagers are running away, but there's already knights or lancers on the other side killing other villagers. And the economy count looks decent, surprisingly still. I'm not sure why or how that is. I guess Song Dynasty, but yeah, I mean, it's just getting really, really bad. And he, I think, has his whole economy idle right now. Like, I don't think Cat is gathering anything.
It's probably Song Dynasty, probably some fishing eco, but yeah, you're right. We have about 40 villagers just idled over here, and when you look at that, it's a different story. And Elyona has had two sacred sites for a while. He's been collecting relics as well, so there's a lot more passive resource income on the side of MarineLorD's team too.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't captured the middle sacred side, by the way. Like, the sacred side win could have been like 5 minutes away as well, which I don't think they even need. We see more lancers arriving. There's also no walls, by the way, so these lancers can literally just run anywhere they want. And yeah, I mean, this is just one of those where it's very hard to come back. And like I mentioned, if 3D teams stabilize from here on out, it becomes better and better for them, but that is just not going to be the case.
Yeah, army numbers just look so bad right now. It's a 2v1 in which B doesn't have an army, which doesn't really look good. He's making palace guards, but he's tapping out. MarineLorD and Elyona take the third game here. Convincing game all around from them. Started out with some very aggressive gameplay, actually, from 3D. They went all the way up to something like 60-70 Chukanus, but then just the Delhi Castle Age came in clutch. Those Lancers did so much to shield MarineLorD's archers. And then beyond that, it was just a snowball, especially once Cat started losing eco.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Cat didn't commit to just mass Keshiks or Horsemen or something. They kind of both went for the archers, so the Ghazi Raiders did really well. And I mean, it's not like MarineLorD went for Spearmen, right? And they both countered MarineLorD Spearmen. MarineLorD went archers, so MarineLorD was trading with them. But then you had Elyona basically countering their units, so it just worked out pretty well for the two of them.
All right, so match point, MarineLorD and Elyona. They are one game away from getting into the round of 8, getting into next weekend. This might be a good time to take a look at the brackets, though, see who they would match up against should they be able to close this set here on Lipany. Alright, so we got the brackets up here for you guys. Let's find MarineLorD and Elyona. They are just at the middle of the bracket out there. They will be facing off against either Kiljardian Divine or Nyan Racing Cat against Chrysor. And if they get to the semifinals, Beasty, and so does your team, they could be your opponents out there.
Not looking good for MarineLorD then. And Elyona. That's a rough bracket. But yeah, I mean, the bracket looks pretty cool. I think the cool part about this tournament is I don't think there's like a clear favorite to which team is going to win. Like there's some strong teams, but I genuinely think that most of these teams can win the tournament or at least do really really well.
Yeah, and so far we've seen some balanced sets. 3-1s, there was a 3-0 as well, but many of the individual games are very close. So, as you mentioned, this draft system is just something that promotes teams being much more even than you would have in an open sign up format. And it's very difficult to guess who will make it even to the next round, let alone the grand finals.
Yeah, the last open sign format was pretty unfair to the other teams, so we had to balance it out. But right now on Litpany, we actually have Rus and English versus Ottoman Abbasid, which means that if it comes to game 5, we will have HRE English for 3D team against I have no idea what, against HRE something.
Malians.
HRE Malians on water. Oh right, we actually. Oh my god, I'm so dumb. We actually played against MarineLorD and Elyona. They did that comp, and I completely forgot. Okay, so if it gets to that, I'll give some info about the strat they'll do. But English Rus, I mean, they are very strong. Obviously, like both of those civs are very very strong, and normally I would say for the last game that English HRA combo for 3 team is going to be pretty strong. But this one is going to be really rough to get through, I feel like. This is giving me kind of similar situation to the first series or the third series today, where we saw French English versus Abbasid Rus, and Abbasid just got completely bullied. And we kind of might see the repeat of that right here.
Yeah, I feel like the interesting thing here is that for most of these matchups, we had a clear cavalry civilization with the knights, sometimes the Kishiks. Here, your best option feels like the Sipahi, which I've heard a lot of people praising the Sipahi recently. But you have that feeling that the English plus the Rus with the knights and archers will be able to, as you said, bully the Abbasids. We have seen that before. And then the Ottomans, they take time to build up the Sipahi numbers if you want to get them from the military schools.
Yeah, I mean, it's the like I said, it's a similar situation where, yeah, Ottoman is great in feudal, but it's like Delhi. It takes a bit to get going, and by the time it gets going, Abbasid will already be running around with villagers. And we didn't see earlier Crackety's team go for men at arms in Dark Age, but if they go men at arms in Dark Age, then even Ottoman going for military school won't really save Abbasid from idle time on gold or on stone. We'll see what they're gonna do, but I would definitely favor Rus English in this one, especially in the early game and even mid game and probably even late game. So I think it's gonna be a really hard one for being Cat.
Well, it's match point for Elyona and MarineLorD. And as you mentioned, if we go to game number 5, that will be on the home map of MarineLorD and Elyona. They will have the Malians available. So interesting strats available around the pond.
Mm-hmm.
It would also be on a map that we didn't see today, so we'll have to see if B and Cat take it there. But they will need to survive a very aggressive play, possibly from MarineLorD and Elyona, with the Abbasids, with the Ottomans. Let's take a look at game number 4.
Sheep commence. There it is.
All right, so it's MarineLorD and Cat, or no, well, it's MarineLorD and Cat, but they're on opposing teams. MarineLorD and Elyona to the south with the cold colors, Rus and English for them are the civs. Other side, we will have the Ottomans and the Abbasids for Cat and B. And the players are spawning very close to each other. I think they spawn even closer than what we have seen in previous Lipany generations.
Yeah, I was gonna say they are next to each other, so this is going to be pretty funny one because, like, MarineLorD could potentially. I guess he doesn't need to protect Telly. Wait, hold up. What is that under MarineLorD's TC? Why is there deer under his TC?
Awkward? Okay, now this is very awkward because you have to do the thinking about which deer belongs to which player. And you have 2 patches to the left, so those are supposed to belong to MarineLorD. Means that this patch actually is supposed to be the deer patch that spawns
Yeah,
closer to
from
Elyona.
Elyona. Yeah, so this is Elyona's deer pack, but it's spawned next to MarineLorD, which on Litpany, there's not supposed to be a deer pack next to your TC. I mean, I always said MarineLorD in tournaments is blessed with spawns, and I mean, that's a pretty good spawn. Like, I think if you put Kremlin maybe on the other deer pack, you have 2 deer packs that are basically under TC/Kremlin. So I'm pretty sure he's gonna be laughing with this one all the way to the bank. So that's gonna be really hard to put any pressure on him.
It's also going to make it much easier to get more than 80 bounty.
Which is, let's be honest, it's not something he does very often, right? So, let's see, yeah, three effing scouts, right, and definitely more than 80 bounty. So he's, oh my god, that is disgusting. What the hell is that?
Talk about a good start. He just yoinked all the sheep, and I guess this is why spawning so close to each other make things very awkward, because the resources spawn based on the distance to the specific player that they are allocated to. It's not like, okay, you have 2 players spawning, and they spawn from a certain distance from both players. If that deer belongs to Elyona, it's going to spawn in a specific distance at a random spot from Elyona's TC, and that's why it spawns into the base of MarineLorD. Something similar actually happened on the other side as well. On the other side of the wood line that belongs to B, there is a very close patch of deer. But they do have double deers on the front for both players, actually.
Yeah, I feel like this is, I mean, this is like a dream start, right? And we do see Kremlin at that spot I mentioned. He's going to cover 2 wood lines, a deer pack, a gold, and I mean, you know how they say when MarineLorD wins, it's a destruction. So, not only they're ahead, they're just massively ahead. So, they're probably really happy with the start so far.
Yeah, that's a lot of sheep being hauled in. He does have that safe hunt. Very vulnerable base as well. The forest always spawn on the front. There are some cliffs as well to support with that. In general, this map is just so stacked with those narrow choke points. The forests, the cliffs, they do give you that. I think this is an even more defendable Lipony than most of the generations that we see.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the other side, right? To talk a little bit about what they got. If they manage to put a TC where that double deer pack is, that is going to be a pretty good one. You get double deer pack, you get gold, you get 2 wood lines, so he will get a lot of value from that too. So it all comes down to if MarineLorD and Elyona can kind of stop that or delay that, because there's a difference between, you know, delaying a TC and actually stopping it from going out on the deer. And if they do stop it from going out on the deer, that is a much bigger deal. Well, would you see a little battle, and B manages to grab that one. On the other side, I don't see MarineLorD on stone, so I think MarineLorD is just going for knights immediately, and I think Elyona is just going to be pumping units from the get-go. And yeah, the TC very safe, not trying to be too greedy, but it kind of, you know, begs the question: is he gonna run out of food like extremely quickly?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same thing. You see, he is slowly depleting his berries. All the hunt is on the front. When you look at the berry spawns, most of them are kind of out in the middle to the north. And don't forget, MarineLorD took away all the sheep. He had like a dozen sheep following a scout all across the map. So there's basically no sheep for Cat to work with. Makes me wonder how B is going to assist with that. We have seen him play pro scouts multiple times, but I don't think he's going to do that over here. Oh, it's MarineLorD with that.
Oh, that is rough. I mean, that is just rough. I mean, I don't even know what you do in this situation, to be honest. Like, they will simply run out of food. That's the real problem. It's they're not even taking damage right now, and you can see Elyona and MarineLorD are not even pushing. They're kind of just poking a little bit in the middle. They're not even committing. They're just taking the deer slowly, and so far this has been going pretty well for them.
That's an understatement. It's going so well for MarineLord's team, and part of that, of course, is MarineLord taking away all the sheep, and the thing
Oh
is that
my
he's going
god,
to have
I
infinite
forgot.
food. His teammate is farming.
I mean, look at he already has infinite food with those sheep. That is just insane. And you know what's funny? He's actually ferrying in these deer that are so close to his TC already. It's just kind of, yeah,
I hate how he
unfortunate.
just dropped the carcasses on the sheep. Good luck clicking those deer among all those sheep.
It's he's gonna have food for the whole. He won't need to transition to farms ever. Not to mention, like his ally, like I said, is English, right? So he's not even going to use berries. So MarineLord can get all the deer and berries and sheep. And we do see a third TC from Cat. Okay.
This is so
And
risky. They combine for 4 army, including their scouts. He's playing 3 TCs. It's a very compact base as well, secures basically no food for them. And there is a group of 12 longbows marching up. It's not like there is anything that stops them, and once MarineLord starts adding knights, this could be a disaster.
I mean, I'm not. Okay, maybe first TC he didn't want to risk it, but now I mean, there's nothing close. He could have definitely built a TC here. So it's kind of interesting that he's just deciding to not even protect like the other wood line. He's just making it next to the same wood line, which I mean, it has to be like a super early farm transition, but playing against Roost that's gonna have like 8 deer packs soon under his TC is going to be a very hard one to beat.
Yeah, here come the longbows. Will be scouted by Cat. He's going to pay the price for that, losing his scout. That's actually 12.5% of their entire army going down there. Let that sink in.
Yeah, I mean, Cat has 0 units, and that's including scouts. So he's trying to age up.
Feels
Can
very
we check
kamikaze.
resources of Cat if possible? I mean, he has like 12 on gold, so he has to be trying to age up right now.
Well, the slideshow is going to disagree for a moment. A request to check resources denied, apparently.
Maybe that's his resources actually. 1710.
We'll
I
get
feel
you
like that
back.
is his, right?
This is the Ottoman player, and we're slowly going around. This is likely Cat, as we move on with the slideshow. What is he up to with all that gold, however? Like, as you mentioned, he's got a lot of villagers on gold, but he just now finished with the berries. He's nowhere close to Castle Age, and he's out of food already.
I mean, he has a stable. He's building a scout, by the way. So he's not building units yet. He's building a scout. I don't know what the plan is. I'm genuinely like, let's say he gets to castle. Okay, let's say he ages up. Okay, great. You have no food, so maybe he ages up and makes a mangonel. I don't. That's like the only thing that I can think of. Or maybe he attempts to go for super early farms.
But he needs to get enough food to age up. There are some berries that were walled off to the north by B, so there is that for them. But this is looking so grim, especially because B had to sacrifice all those Sipahis to save him. And at the end of the day, we're looking at an 8 villager lead right now in the favor of their team. Not something that you want to see when you play naked 3 TCs.
Yeah. So we do see. I mean, the players also spawn very close, right? So it's kind of working as one base, in a way. So maybe that's being like helpful in this situation to do this kind of style. And we do see scouts moving out, and they're definitely going to be taking all those deer. And right now, Elyona and MarineLorD are just rallying units. We see 8 knights, 16 longbows. I'm assuming the upgrades are going up, and MarineLorD is going to start raiding right now.
Yeah, here come the longbows as well. And this, as long as you have the knights in front, those Sipahi will never be able to jump the longbows. Some spears are also being mixed in by Elyona. And you see these lumberjacks could be a target soon. Military wing on the way here for Cat. Now, every time I see a Castle Age military wing in a team game setting like this, I always get reminded about the camel riders that Mista made once. Could that be the solution here, or does that feel crazy?
One thing to notice before that is he just reached Golden Age 1. Uh, which is another problem, right? Because that's 15% gathering speed on all his villagers. So I'm assuming one of the buildings was not quite connected. And yeah, I mean, he's doing the weird thing, right? That I mentioned. He's rushing castle. And the Ottoman is going for a little bit of everything, right? Now, if Ottoman was going for like mass spear, I would be like, okay, make like 2 mangonels, and Ottoman holds the knights, and you kind of just mangonel everything. But because he has stable, so I guess he's going into knights. But that just feels very, very risky. But maybe it pays off.
Yeah, B was successful intercepting these villagers here, and right now this feels like one of those ladder team games where you just tell your teammate, hey, I'm booming fast castle, you defend me. That's exactly what B is doing.
Yeah, 3 TC castle, you know, no golden age, no wheelbarrow, nothing. And then, you know, they get attacked, and Cat types, where's your army? And yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's happening. And we do see 5 stables. Could we potentially see feeding strategy?
Could be. We could see a slink here, but it's gonna be so tricky. Especially because when you sling, one of the issues that you can have is that you might have a lack of diversity with your unit composition, so you could be easy to counter. We'll have to see. 2 imams were popped, but they just went down in a blink of an eye to those knights. Nothing that really protects those archers right now under the TC, and MarineLorD and Elyona will dive. They saw the castle age from Cat, and they just say, well, let's go pedal to the metal. They dive under the TC of B, and he's got nothing here to defend with.
Yeah, I think they saw the castle age up, and like what is going on? Like 3 TC castle rush, and they literally, I mean, you see, they literally just moved under B's TC, and they're just killing everything. And even if the knights arrive, and they are arriving, and we see camel riders too, and that's great. And those camel riders and knights are gonna do decent, although camel riders are insta dead. The question is, what happens after? I mean, B is going to be in a similar situation as Cat was in the last game, just having no economy.
Yeah, and when you look at the knight numbers for Cat, he's got 5 on the field right now, and there's Castle Age coming in from MarineLorD. He has 15 knights, so when he gets there, knight numbers will be even. Dex will be pretty even as well. And as you said, B is gonna be so battered over here. Not just that he lost a bunch of villagers, it's also the fact that he has been idled for a long, long time. I don't think he had any resource income the last 1 minute.
Yeah, and we do see some villagers on the left berries. I think those are cats. Just, I'm assuming no tower, nothing on them. So if they get found, they're gonna be completely toast. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this one before. Let's just say that. And I mean, they're kind of relying on, like, I hope I do something with these knights. You know, like, I hope I kill enough, or, you know, I don't know, something, because they're definitely, even though they're heading workers, right, they're definitely not in the good spot right now.
It's also the efficiency of those workers, right? So many of them have been idled. You see, expensive knights were also taken down over here by the longbows. Some spearmen also challenged these Sipahi. And at the end of the day, we have 8 knights on the field for Cat, 9 for MarineLorD, both of them being in Castle Age.
Yeah, and like you said, MarineLorD ages up, and now he's gonna get his upgrade, maybe get Boyer's Fortitude, and suddenly you're both in castle making knights, except you have English on your side who also has units, versus Ottoman, who is in a pretty rough spot.
And don't forget, Cat is struggling for food. In fact, he's actually taking berries from the middle of the field right now.
Oh wow, he's... Those are, as I like to call them, optimistic berries, and we're about to find out why.
Yeah, here they go. And this is a sign for MarineLorD and Elyona. They know fully well how deprived his opponent, or their opponents, are from food. Sipahi is sent to clean up these longbows. Longbows are just chilling for the time being, deploying palings, but with the Sipahis being sent here, there's nothing that assists all these knights. In fact, the archers do get picked off before they finish off the spears. 56 army against 24. MarineLorD and Elyona are very close to securing this series, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, two of the civs that are not as strong, Abbasid and Ottoman being paired together, and at the same time, just kind of like a weird approach. I feel like I don't know if this was their plan from the get go, because there was no attempt of getting those deer, right? There was no attempt of putting the TC there, so I'm not sure if this was their strat or they saw the map generation and maybe said like, okay, we can't expand. Let's just try to rush castle and kind of go from there. But yeah, MarineLorD and Elyona having a pretty good lead, having map control, and he is getting a lot of food in the middle of the map. But I feel like the moment that gets spotted, the dream will end.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same. It's 30 villagers difference, but there is like 40, 50 villagers out there on the map, completely undefended, taking berries, and they have to take those berries. Otherwise, Cat has no chance of matching the production of the opponent. Sipahis tried to loop around on the longbows. Longbows focusing down the archers on the backline to keep the spearmen alive. It looks like most of the light cav goes down from B. Some of the spearmen are still alive, and they do take some good fights against these knights. And there's a wooden fortress even for MarineLorD. He's slowly expanding to the north. And oh, whoa, 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 whoa. There is the Wololo. That has to finish, and it does. MarineLorD just yoinks all the vills.
Yoink! And I mean, why kill them when you can just take them, right? Oh, and there's more optimistic villagers coming out. Let's see how this one goes. We saw the last one. Maybe this time they managed to get all those berries. Probably not, but they are trying.
They have to try. Knights will just feed on them. And it's crazy to think that if MarineLorD had just 1 or 2 knights flanking towards those other berries, their opponents would be down by 25 vills already.
Yeah, and once again, game kind of, interestingly enough, the villager count is very similar. Let's not forget, he was on, 3D team was on 4 TCs total, and MarineLorD and Elyona were in 2. Now they're on 3 versus 4, but English has set up food, right? He has set up farms, and they are pushing back a little bit, which I'm very surprised about.
Yeah, aggressive push over here. Crossbows coming out for the English player, though. Council Hall helping out a lot with that. And there is no clear answer to even just a handful of crossbows here, so this counterattack just stalls out in a blink of an eye. And let's not forget, as you said, now you have additional TCs for Elyona as well. But more importantly, he is up to Castle Age, so the only player that is still stuck in Feudal is B. And look at MarineLorD's relics, by the way. Let's just talk about that for a sec. He's got 3 already, and I think he's got some more coming in. No,
Yeah,
no.
he's gonna take those deer as well.
Yeah, it's gonna look so sad.
We see that the funny thing is, so he took a lot of villagers from Cat, but at the same time he is actually getting all the bears on the left side, and MarineLorD and Elyona are so focused on this side they're not contesting at all. And there's been probably like 40 villagers with no towers, no protection, just getting all the berries, and I feel like that's the only thing that's keeping them in the game. And now they're slowly transitioning to farms, and the game might actually continue and kind of go on. And question is if B can transition into castle and kind of have an impact on the game as it goes on.
Yeah, indeed. Cat doesn't really go punished for all those outlying villagers that are just completely undefended. Behind this, of course, as you said, B is still yet to go to Castle Age. MarineLorD has stacked up a lot of relics, but the eco is still there, and if they can stall this game out, they do have a window to recover. In fact, you mentioned the possibility to sling. I could see Cat starting to send some resources for B to get him to castle.
Yeah, and with military schools, funny thing is Ottoman is one of those civs where it's like if you want to be super far behind, they're probably a good civ to be behind on because you do have free military production. So it doesn't feel as bad, like you're still contributing something. And if you look at the army count, it's very equal, but a lot of that, more than half of that is B's feudal army. So that's something to take in consideration.
Yeah, knight numbers are looking slightly better for MarineLorD. It's 27 compared to 21. I don't think he's got... Actually, does he have Boyar's Fortitude? I think I saw the HP upgrade on them, so he does have that. No Knight Poleaxes, of course, on those just yet. And indeed, it's 260 HP against slightly weaker ones, but this is the problem. Now you have Spears, now you have Crossbows coming up. And this combo just feels a lot more lethal than what 3D has.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna push. There are archers. There's a lot of archers, but again, they are feudal archers, and MarineLorD has so many knights. We see men-at-arms. We see crossbows as well, a good amount. That's 15 crossbows that are just gonna one-tap these knights as well and just help out so much.
Yeah, indeed, that's exactly what they do. Villagers get forced away from the berries. Now the knights pursue all those archers, and the casualties are just too massive on B and L or the cat side. Villagers will have to be pulled away from the gold. There's Castle Age from B with the Istanbul Imperial Palace, but it feels like it comes in at a very unfortunate time for him. His army is about to get cleaned up, and if he doesn't have archers here, the crossbows will just massacre whatever small army Cat has left.
Yeah, and migrating through these areas is obviously very, difficult for both sides, but I feel like it's a lot worse for B and Cat because they're dealing with like pure knights, and these crossbows actually just getting in there and having a hard time dealing with them. We see archers trying to pick them off, but I feel like there's just not enough archers right now.
Yeah, there is basically none remaining here. B's got an army of 15. 16 Lancers still remain for Cat, but they're slowly being picked apart by crossbows. A lot of villagers going down now for Cat. He's been pushed away from the gold, he's been pushed away from the berries, and now his farming eco is idle as well. His food eco is about to collapse, and I feel like there will be a distinct lack of reinforcements on the Knights department soon. Finally, MarineLorD finds the villagers in the middle as well.
Yeah, and that's a 4th TC that I see right there in the middle of the map. So, Cat just trying to come back with more and more villagers, and sometimes when you're behind, you gotta try something, right? And they do manage to clean up for now. But yeah, once MarineLorD finds this, he's gonna be switching a lot of knights to that side of the map to try to prevent that.
Lancers are starting. Yeah, they're just picking apart the wills now. There's just nowhere left to go for Cat.
Yeah, there's no gold. Like that's why he's like trying to get gold there, because there's no gold on the right side. There's units there too, so that's a pretty rough one, and looking good for the French team.
And now it's a 27 villagers lead. You have a lot of relics as well on MarineLord's side. Janissaries have been mixed in, and that could be a saving grace for 3D clan over here, because most of the army from the French team, MarineLords especially, is just heavy cavalry, and these Janissaries do really well against them, but you do need something in front, otherwise these Janissaries would just die in a blink of an eye.
There's someone out there saying, I thought Janissaries countered cavalry. I just saw them lose to knights. It's like, well, when you got 41 knights against, a handful of Janissaries, that's how it goes.
110 army against 22. Escalation seems a lot more rapid on the side of MarineLord's team now. And it looks like we have a new TC here for Cat, trying to recover, but it will be short-lived. Villagers do get pushed away. It will be torched down as well. And now it's just full control for MarineLord's team. Now it's turning into 2 separate 1v1s at this point. Elyona getting ready to push the base of Cat.
Yeah, and I mean, they're trying everything they can, right? They don't want to give up. It is their last game, right? So they want to make sure that even if there's a slight chance to win, they're going to try to stick in the game and just try everything they can. But yeah, I mean, when English player can beat both of you alone, then it's time to tap out.
Here come the men-at-arms, here come the crossbows. Men-at-arms do provide a great front line. There are the rams as well, starting to knock down production buildings. And MarineLorD is yet to show up with the 45 knights he has. Looks like MarineLorD and Elyona are getting awfully close to a win here. And with that, they would move on to next weekend. They would move on to the quarterfinals. You mentioned this right at the beginning of this game. The challenge for B and Cat will be surviving that initial aggression that comes out from the Rus and the English. And that didn't really succeed for them. We've seen a 3 TC build from Cat, basically no army, and you felt that throughout the entire game that was punished by MarineLorD and Elyona.
Yeah, I mean, GG gets called, and I think MarineLorD and Elyona again did not expect this kind of style, and I definitely didn't. And you saw the moment they aged up to castle, right? They just kind of went for it, and they just had no army to stop it, to be honest. And after that, there was few moments where it's like, well, maybe they're kind of pushing back, but just like last game, we except now it was B, but last game we had Cat who just had no economy, no units, and winning 1 versus 2, even if you have more eco, is a lot harder because you can't split your attention everywhere. You can't make every unit to counter every unit come from their opponent. So overall, I would say pretty solid from the French team. They managed to win 3-1, and they're going to move on to round of 8.